Welcome to Voices in Hyperspace. This is a podcast where friends get together and discuss all things sci-fi. Our current mission is to go through the hit 90s sci-fi epic Babylon 5. Today we are going to be taking a look at Season 2, Episode 2, Revelations. This is Legendary Black Lion.
I'm Mel Asylum.
Yo, it's Nita Painter.
Hey y'all, this is Sunday.
And we just finished our watch party. I will go ahead and give my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. There's a lot going on in it. And I wanted to point out, like, y'all endured Season 1. And Season 1 has some cool stuff in it. But it looks like what they did was they used all the good lessons that they learned from Season 1 and put it into Season 2. And they seem to make the episodes be a little bit tighter. One of the consequences, though, is they are a little faster, but I think it does well with getting the story giving you the point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they had to give us the point and introduce us to the characters even more. Now that we know them, they don't have to keep doing that.
Right. And speaking of getting to know characters, there's a security officer, the guy that's balding. We find out today his name is Lou. I don't think I've heard his name said in the previous season. Maybe someone else did, but I'm looking at these characters and I'm like, oh, you do have a name. and Lou, his name is Lou. He's like just a schlubby guy, you know. He's kind of
name him John Doe.
No, that was the other guy.
Oh.
And I'm learning, like, okay, cool. They're filling out this world that they finally seem to have mapped out. And the other thing I wanted to point out, did y'all notice Sheridan's command style? Have you paid attention to his command style these last two episodes?
Yeah, it's kind of indirect, but direct at the same time.
Yeah,
because 2 times he's psyched people out, but it's not like a straight up lie. It's kind of like very nonchalant about big things.
Looking at it, if this was Sinclair would have taken on like the burden of the Drazi, the burden of the Technomages, the burden of everybody on his own shoulders, and he would have tried to like fix it himself. But yeah. Sheridan is like, this dude, he's walking in, he's all like, hey, Ivanova, you know what? I think you need more responsibilities. You take care of this. Oh yeah, by the way, you're getting promoted. And so he breaks the news to her by giving her probably an impossible job. And he is almost not involved with them at all, which is pretty interesting because he is the captain. He runs the station. And we're seeing Sinclair take that stuff like very seriously and to heart, like it's his own thing. And Sheridan is like, you know what, Ivanova, you do it.
Sinclair probably would have like heard that they were fighting somewhere and ran down there to try to physically stop them himself.
Like,
and
yeah.
Then he briefed everyone else. This guy, he's letting people do their jobs.
Yes. What are some other plot points that y'all picked up from this that you either enjoyed or just stood out?
I noticed the theme of power, and I saw 3 different divisions of power or representations of power: internal power, ego power, and strength. So with internal power, you have Michael and Ivanova trying to define what they can do. So Michael doesn't think he can go back to the job. He doesn't trust the new guy because he doesn't know him. And it's very shallow, his idea of what type of strength that he has to do his job. And he's ready to give up completely on being security after all these years of that being his identity, simply because he got shot once.
Well, I mean, yeah, he got shot once.
Die?
He almost did, though. That's the thing.
But did he?
He should have. He really, like, I keep complaining. And it's funny. He even said so. Like, I got shot in the back by my own guy. Apparently, that dude Joe or John or whatever his name is was his heads of security. That was his number one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It's like, I must suck. Oh, like, okay. I mean, but he's been running this way all the years he's been a cop. And now it finally catches up to him. And like, this is kind of a rock bottom for him at this point. And if Ivanova, on the other hand, she's confident, even though she doesn't see how she's going to do this. Like, even though I felt like the answer was kind of obvious, but maybe not so much. I feel like because they're supposed to be respecting other cultures, but at the same time trying to keep the station safe, why not just restrict the fighting to a certain area so that the civilians don't get hurt? And that would have been my solution. Like, if they're gonna fight regardless of what I do, and and this was a tradition that people already knew that they been had. So why are you going to sit there and try to explain to them why they shouldn't be fighting if it's simply just a tradition? So that's the internal, their power that they have of their self. The ego power is obviously Londo.
yeah, Londo.
But Londo. And I didn't see a positive or a negative in that. It's just it's all well, I saw negative. I didn't see positive. Like, he's willing to he's blindsided when it comes to anything else except for ego. He doesn't respect anybody else. He doesn't. He asks for his assistant's advice and then ignores it and tells him to do the opposite. The Technomages are like, no. And he's been told no twice, and he then decides to be sneaky because he just needs to have his way, and he feels like he deserves it, but people just don't recognize it yet. He's always been ego driven, but now it's very defined by power. He's trying to get more power, even though you got somewhat infinite power through your little sneaky little friend over here. And then there's the strength power, where it's just nothing but strength. What's the species that's fighting?
The Drazi.
The Drazi. Their power struggle is simply to fight. Simply to fight each other. There's no, even though it is an exact explanation of what power is, I think, just simplified. Like, after you add all that other stuff, you still get that same simplified explanation. Even though it means something for you, doesn't mean, like, a flag could mean something. It's still, you are under some flag, like, and you're gonna fight because it's a flag. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It really didn't matter.
Some piece of cloth.
Her argument, it's just some piece of cloth, and one piece of cloth happens to have a little more than something else, and. And I do actually remember that when I was a kid, because my dad had explained to me how that was the simplified version that I understood because I was a kid to what the other people were doing. And the Technomages is the complete opposite of the Drazi. Their power isn't just brute strength. Their power is wisdom and understanding. And they don't feel any need to have to wield it. Like, they literally want to mind. They have so much power that they just want to mind their own business.
Like, and the Technomages look so just tired and worried to being around these other species that are fighting and struggling over political power, and they're just like, you know what? We're getting out of here.
Yeah. I feel like they see
being surrounded by idiots.
It is. But I feel like they see even like the higher levels, like Londo's way of power, that's still calculative and thoughtful. Well, not thoughtful, but like you got to think to do his, and it's not just brute strength. It's a whole lot of different things. Even though it's complex, it's still just as stupid as wearing a bandana, like a piece of cloth. He sees Londo's crap the same way we see the cloth crap.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't have to deal with this. I can go somewhere else. There you go.
Oh yeah, he absolutely was not having any of Londo or the Centauri. It was interesting. We'll get to them in a moment, because honestly, I think that you pointed out some really important themes, and power being the main, like the center focus, which in general, I think power and analyzing power is going to be central to this portion of the series. And it made me think, because when I was, taking my notes, one of my questions is like, what are the themes? And you kind of made me think about like the power that each of these characters wield. Garibaldi, like the political power, or the power of force that he has, is being like the chief of security. He has the ability to utilize and command like an incredible force, but he's questioning himself. And yeah, just like you said, I would question myself if I got shot in the back by one of my own guys, which he was, if you ask me, he was wondering like, how could I miss this? Right. We got to see how suspicious that he is, even with his own friends.
I mean, you miss it when you don't look behind you, like when you don't turn around. That's how you miss things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just like in season 1, I'm gonna repeat it. He always has somebody with him watching his back, and this one time he gets got. So it made me think of a couple of things looking at these themes. What was also brought up, and this can relate to power, but it was a couple of questions that popped up, and I think each of like some of the new characters are answering this. One of the questions that I wrote down, and we can kind of discuss it: are we victims of fate, or do we choose our own fate? We get to see this manifest in like a bunch of different ways. Ivanova, she's a career officer, but she just gets promoted and she's like not expecting it. Sheridan, he's playing it up, but of course that has to be a big deal. Like I got a promotion, but think about it. You run in a space station full of aliens kind of by yourself. I think you deserve a promotion.
Yeah. I'm surprised she wasn't a commander before. I didn't notice that, but I never noticed rank.
Yeah, I think, and I'll have to look this up. I think she got rank of commander. I think she was a lieutenant commander before.
Oh, okay.
And so she got full commander. And I could be completely wrong on that. You know what? And I'm totally okay with people calling me out.
'Cause she's a woman. I'm only being like partially serious with that. I'm mostly being funny.
I understand. No big deal.
And then also, like, she has less experience.
I guess so.
She's younger. Like the others, like
that's right.
The other two commanders, they
fought the war.
Saw the war.
Yeah.
She didn't come until after the war was over, so we don't really know. Maybe I could look up how old she is, how long she's been in service, and stuff.
Yeah. So, what did y'all think of the introduction of the character Lord Rifa? He was the person that Londo was talking to at the very beginning of the episode.
He's sneaky. I mean, he is obviously from the same species as Londo.
Yeah.
He got plans. He's for some reason impressed that he could do this thing that can't be explained. He doesn't question the fact that it can't be explained. He's just like, ooh, I see power and I want that. He's just as blind as Londo. Like,
well, yeah.
I thought it was really bold of him. I thought it was really bold of him to just be like, hey, you want to commit treason with me?
Yeah.
It sounds like that's something normal for them. It's like they remind me of like the medieval Game of Thrones type people.
Yeah.
They're always trying, like that. Oh, he mentioned in the first season that they all get to see a vision of their death, and it's usually always somebody killing them. They don't ever die of natural causes.
That is the worst mutant power ever, by the way.
They backstabbing is just how they live their lives,
Yeah.
and drinking.
Yeah, and that does say, like, they're filling that part out. But the way that he talked about usurping the throne, he's like, look, we're gonna get rid of this emperor. And he was explaining, like, the emperor was weak, he was embarrassing the empire. We're gonna have a change. But the way that they were talking about it is taking things back to the good old days, to the glory days of the empire. Mm-hmm. And that just for me, that just makes my fascist senses tingle. I'm like, y'all are not talking about anything good for anybody ever.
No. This ain't what is it called? Green punk.
What'd you say?
This isn't great. They don't scream green punk.
Oh no, not at all.
No, they're the complete opposite. They like to destroy things.
Yeah.
They are the reasons for the cyberpunk to have the conflicts that they have.
Right. Which I guess you could say Babylon 5 is a little, I wouldn't say a cyberpunk, it's more like neon punk. Yeah.
It has the ideas of cyberpunk where the aesthetic of cyberpunk is nowhere near anywhere in this, but the ideas of capitalism destroying other people and dominating people's lives, that part of cyberpunk is all Babylon 5.
Yeah. So then Ivanova, and I did want to talk about this part. Ivanova, she's the one that explains what the Drazi are even doing. What we saw was a scene of them meeting in the corridor and then just having a straight up battle royale. And this part, when I first saw it in the 90s, it made me, like, visually, I was like, oh, this is their gang violence episode. You know, colors of a rag, people are fighting over, killing over. But then this time I paid a lot more attention to the reason why. And the main reason why, just like you said, Mel, was power. They said once every 5 years, these two groups pick a rag out of the bin and then they fight until there's a winner, and then the winner rules for the next 5 years. And I was like, oh, that's not gang violence. Well, it is a gang violence, but what it really is partisan politics. It's American partisan politics. The purple and the green are red and blue. They're the Democrat and Republican Party. And the way that they're fighting is basically the bickering between the two parties until there's a winner. And then the winner rules until the next time. And I'm just like, oh, the cycle is pointless. Yeah. But people, they look forward to being able to beat up on each other.
They do, though.
Yeah.
It's like, let's come up with all of our points that we can make them look bad for. Like,
yeah.
It's so pointless, even though all they do is make points. The point of them making points is pointless.
Yeah, because at the end of it, as it was depicted in the show, the Drazi, they're just like, if you have this color on, that's just who you are. It's not about how you feel. Like, there's no nuance. And so this is the portion of the show where we're going to get a little preachy about modern day partisan politics. Like, there's no nuance. And granted, our political system, people attempt to be more sophisticated, but in the end, really what they do is they pull their color out of a bin first, and then they add all this complicated stuff afterwards to justify it. They don't have a method of evaluating these things and justifying them first. They pick their side, and then they defend their side until their side wins or loses, and they do it all again at the end of the cycle.
Yeah. It sounds like I like to watch YouTubers who read Twitter sometimes. And, like different people with different opinions will go so far off to just make up stuff to say that these people are wrong, and it's really ridiculous. Like they just and it's stereotypes basically.
Yeah,
Like a lot of them
yeah.
is just they're creating stereotypes, and like our system having stereotypes or just making up whatever little facts they want, just again stereotype, is the same as them throwing blows.
Yep.
And it's just as nuanced as throwing blows, because all you're doing is hitting something. Like
I always
and
look
they
at
just
it.
gonna get back up to hit you again, like, and then
Right.
you get like.
I always look at
And it
like,
has nothing to. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say I always look at it like sports teams. Like you pick you live in a town, you pick a team, that's your team because you're from that town.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they're good or bad, just because you're there and that's them.
No,
Like,
that's different.
That's it.
Oh, my bad.
Like when I was in school and people were like, there would be another high school that everyone would be like, oh, they suck because of things that they have no idea about. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like if you've never met them, if you don't know them, and then you're talking about an entire high school population, it's a couple hundred people, then they're not all the same. The only thing they got in common is that that's the place they go to school.
Right.
Which
what makes this even more insidious is that they're doing, like, the Drazi are doing this for their political system. And it, like, I don't know what rules there are that it, like, dictates all of this. They just know pick their side. But this is about political power. This is about who's going to make the rules. I like the joke about how the rules don't speak of aliens, and that rules change is caught up in committee. So they do have a political system. They have bureaucracy that complicates things, but ultimately it's hierarchical power, and they are either they're bowing to tradition, they're bowing to a set of rules written down in law, they're bowing to political rules. It's like the insidiousness of a state creating a hierarchy, separating people into classes, and then those classes going to war with each other to have the favor of the state. And then they are wrapping this up with other species. Like they break out into the brawls and start murdering each other on Babylon 5. And they're like, yeah, this is how we do this is how we do things. And it kind of shows you, like, whatever tools that will whip people in line is what the hierarchy with the leaders are going to use. And it made me think, like, is there like I was wondering, and I'm just, going off a headcanon, if there's some sort of population control issue that they were like, yeah, we should fight each other to the death because there's too many of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They must have done it for resources on their home planet, but now they're in space. So
right, and I think about that when it comes to the what's his name, Centauri too. It's like, why are they so good at fighting that as soon as they reach space travel, that all they know to do is conquer,
shoot everything.
And I guess, like, we see that here on Earth. It's like, it's so weird because Europe is like almost the same size, well, maybe even smaller than the US. And you have so many different countries. Like, how do you not all speak the same language? Or, like, why are you all so split up into all these little cliques in such a small space? How did they do that?
And they absolutely hate each other.
Right. Just because they live on another line, of an imaginary line.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to quote my indigenous friends, like, how do you separate land? How do you own land? How do you make land a part of how you live other than, survival? It's unnecessary. But then something really interesting that was introduced to me by engineering. He likes to watch these Minecraft videos where they create a server where people get dropped off in different parts of the world. And
wow.
each continent has to survive over time based on what is available. So the people in Europe who didn't have a lot of grasslands, didn't have a lot of planting, didn't have a lot of animals. It was hard to survive because there's a lot of snow. They end up having more resources for fighting than the people in Africa who just popped into a place where there's plenty of trees, plenty of food, plenty of animals. We ain't got to do nothing to help survive because everything is here.
Wow.
We good. Whereas they had to struggle to survive, and all they know is struggle because they got as soon as they end up going other places, it's like, let's get what we can get because we ain't got nothing. And everybody else is chilling. It's like all of a sudden they trying to fight us. Like,
wow,
we were doing good.
All right, I'm gonna move us along here. So we see a scene where Londo, which I have a theory. Tell me if y'all think I'm right or wrong. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But Londo and Veer, Londo is coded as if he is like depressed, like there's something with his personality, right? Because you see, he drinks a lot, he parties a lot, but then when he's thinking about his job, he just looks absolutely miserable. And he talks about it. He's miserable. He has anxiety about it. Which you will see, like many of the Centauri will share that. Veer, to me, and I think it'll become more clear in later episodes, but Veer is neurodivergent coded. In this episode, you see that he's like fearless with trying to set up and go to speak to the Technomages. He even said, like, the Technomage was like, the consequences are dire. He's like, look, if I don't get you this meeting, the consequences that I receive are going to be even more dire than that. So, but he also, like I said, he snaps back at Londo. He has like very strong opinions about things. Y'all see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what his divergence is. I don't know if he's ADHD or other. So, but I want to keep an eye on that. But at this,
he thinks a lot. And he sees things he sees more than just ego. He sees more than just power. I think he thinks around things, whereas everyone around him and most of his species are so tunnel visioned. But maybe he's dyslexic, but technically like not dyslexic. It is an alien form of dyslexia where he can see the world he sees his world in 3 dimensions because he's never like, it's always a but. There's always I can see why, but there's all these other things, and it kind of comes out in his explanation of fate.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. His character,
so many different. Yeah, I mean, when he sounds like how I think.
Yeah, his character is so much more fleshed out, and like he seems multidimensional, not just 3-dimensional. He has like a whole like belief system that he's working on in his brain, and Londo's cut him off. He's just like, look, yes or no.
Yeah. And I get that sometimes, like if someone asks me a question and I start telling them what my answer is, and they're like, I didn't ask you all that. Like, technically you did though.
Yeah. Hey, you asked me what I wanted, what I thought, and this is what I think. I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's all in there.
Yeah.
But basically at the end of that conversation, Londo is like, go arrange this meeting. Sheridan, this is a meeting that I think if you saw the first episode, this one was definitely something you were hoping for. Mm-hmm. This is where Sheridan finally has his one-on-one with Garibaldi. And it's really interesting because, we know that Garibaldi really doesn't trust anyone, but he has like this really stinky attitude about Sheridan. Because his whole thing was like, Sheridan was like, when are you coming back to work? And Garibaldi's like, I don't know. Also, I don't even know if you want me to come back to work. I mean, why would you even want me?
Even though he's asking him, when are you coming back? Like,
right. But I like Sheridan's response. He said it would be foolish to throw away a valuable resource. And then he says, I'm going to keep your job open for as long as I can. And this is why, or this is originally why it's like, why, like, what do y'all think of his command style? Because his whole thing is by the book also, but he's also kind of like, on a personal level, he's getting with these people and he's kind of having some human moments with them.
Yeah, I think he's very patient. Like with Ivanova, I could see someone else getting upset. Like, I gave you this job and you end up in the infirmary. You're supposed to like work on this. And he's just like, yeah, it's going to take time. And with Michael, it's like, yeah, I kind of know that if he knows Michael, by the way he acts like he knows Michael, like he was friends with the last guy before they got on the Babylon 5. He took that job because they were friends. And he's like, I don't trust this new guy because I don't know him. That's what he told the doctor. And, and then with Londo, he was like, he called his bluff. Is that the right way to use that? Londo came to him like, hey, I'm going to help you with the Technomages. And as soon as he walked away, he's looking at him like, that was weird.
Yeah.
So I think he knew, obviously, it seemed like a setup because they all knew
yeah.
What was going to happen. He could have just cut him off right then. He could have, no, like, you're not coming anywhere near them. This is none of your business. But instead, he embarrassed him. And it took patience and planning to do that.
Yeah. As Mel was pointing out, Londo and Vera are setting up that whole thing. Ivanova, she's trying to hold a diplomatic meeting with the Drazi, and this is where they explain everything. And this is where, you know, we delve into the politics of it. The whole thing is stupid. And Ivanova also does a demonstration to show how stupid it is, and it inadvertently incites a riot. And they fall on her and they break her foot in 3 places. This is kind of looking at how the US or the UN or peacekeepers are like, oh, we're going to step in to these conflicts and we're going to fix them with diplomacy. And then they end up like getting beat up, shot up because there's like you're an outsider trying to deal with something. Now, granted, Babylon 5, you know, they're taking it a different route. Their whole thing is like, this is the place for diplomacy. We're going to find a peaceful solution. And if I recall, Sheridan did visit her in the hospital. He was like, so what you gonna do next? He was like, you failed at that. So what you got? And that was also when Ivanova is sharing like Franklin is saying like, oh, because of all your injuries, you know, this can happen, that can happen. You got to wear a boot. I can give you something for the pain. She's like, you going to give me something for the pain? And he was all like, yeah. And then she's like, nah, never mind. Which I watched the episode after this and just kind of thinking of Franklin in this episode and that episode. They're doing something a little different to Franklin. Which I think is good, but I think it's for a specific reason that happens later. And they're trying to make Franklin a little bit lighter of a character because, like I said, this dude has the gravity of a neutron star when he's on the scene. So he looks more comical, you know what I mean? Which is okay. He's not trying to save the world and save lives and all that stuff. He's just, giving his commanding officers drugs.
Yeah, and I think his character in this episode is supposed to be a contrast to Ivanova and Michael in order to allow you to see where their ego lies. He outlines their ego
Okay.
metaphorically.
I could totally see that. And both of them are like wanting to pretend that they're not as hurt as they are.
Right. But we don't see that unless the doctor's there to like give you that line of where their pain is compared to how they're acting.
Yeah.
Where their pain. Yeah. They're trying to act like they don't have the pain, but without him, we don't see how far the pain actually is.
Right.
It's like, okay, he got shot. What does that mean in the future? Like, how much healing was he able to give him? Blah, blah, blah. Like, how much with the alien device that they got him to get out the coma with, we don't know how well that healed him, and if he's just his ego that's hurt or his body that's hurt. And yeah, they need that contrast.
Which, looking at it, I don't know if Ivanova's ego was hurt very much. I think
it wasn't. It was just her.
Yeah, just her foot. But and I think in the past her whole thing was everyone listens to Ivanova. In fact, she started off this season yelling at ambassadors saying that she's going to arrange their seats outside the airlock, and they were they were afraid of her. These Drazi fear nothing.
Right. And the last season she called herself God.
Yes. So they are changing up her character a little bit. They're showing a more with all of these characters, they're showing more emotional range. Mm-hmm. And with Ivanova, they're showing a lot more vulnerability. Anyway, so Veer goes down below, and he's trying to appeal to the Technomages and get them to do an audience with Londo. And like this dude, you know what? Hold on. Let's back up just 1 second, because we talked to that they are there, but not what they're doing. So the Technomages appeared on the station at the beginning of the show. Londo's like, there's a Technomage, and they only show up to places very rarely. And he said typically when they show up, it's a bad omen. But when you see two of them, that means it's really bad. And these dudes saw like 3 of them, and it looks like on the station, all of the Technomages are gathering on the station. Mm-hmm. Later in the episode, Sheridan explains there are hundreds of Technomages on the station. So this is a big deal.
Yeah. And
Londo gets the idea that that the Centauri are looking for a sign. Like, he knows that Vrifa is going to change the government. He's going to overthrow the government, but he's like, we need a sign. For the people who follow the old ways. The last emperor, the current emperor met with the Technomages, and then his rulership was quote unquote blessed or whatever. People had a good feeling about it. It was a sign, and Londo feels that, okay, if I get an audience with the Technomages, that means our new government, our new empire, is going to be blessed as well. And that gets foiled all the hell throughout this whole episode. So Londo sends Veer down below to meet with the Technomages, and he doesn't even get close to the quarters because he's met with an illusion of a giant creature that's trying to and sounds that is trying to scare him away. And this is what I mean by Veer is fearless. He stays. He closes his eyes and keeps chanting his request, like, I'm here for an audience. I'm here for, this is Veer Kato of Centauri. I'm here on behalf of Londo for an audience. And he just keeps repeating it. The Technomages is like, no, you need to get out of here. And eventually Veer goes away. What ends up happening, he goes back to the ambassador's quarters, and he's explaining, like, look, they won't see you. They do not care about you. Like, you don't understand the level of not care they have for you specifically. And so Londo is like, you know what? I need to take matters into my own hands. And guess what his idea is? This dude goes
Too. Put
straight.
manners in this somebody else's hands.
Right. He goes straight to Sheridan and he's like, look, these Technomages might be up to no good. And I'm just going to offer out of the courtesy of my heart, all of my help and expertise because you need to be safe. You know, he's talking up that mafia mobster voice, making it sound real nice.
Yeah, I call it his narcissist mode. He's always in narcissist mode, but he was being very manipulative. Like, I'm going to pit these people against each other so I can get my way, and it's so disgusting.
Yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, Sheridan, I'm going to help you. I am going to help you," and I thought it was, it was kind of funny because it was his way to try to manipulate the situation. To get Sheridan to call an audience, and then Londo just happened to be there. And Sheridan asked, like, well, what do you get in return? And Londo's like, I get a clear conscience. Like, come on, man. Like, come on, dude. You get a clear conscience. Which this teaches me, whenever Londo offers help, it's obviously for his own benefit.
Always.
Yep. In the meantime, this is where we finally catch up with Garibaldi. This is where we find out that his chief of security now is Lou. Because he said they got cake and that it's been sitting there for a couple of days. And then there's a little joke about that. It made me think that this is how they show security are blue collar guys.
Let them eat cake.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right.
We think we're important because we're the ones eating cake.
Yeah.
When eating cake means nothing for us. It doesn't help a situation at all.
I mean, they were trying to celebrate Garibaldi coming back to work, and he's all like, when are you coming back? He's like, oh, I don't know.
No, I meant the phrase cake, not them actually having cake.
Okay.
No.
All right.
They were trying to be happy about him coming back.
Yeah, that totally
their appreciation.
Totally flew over my head. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to Sheridan. They finally has the Technomage. This is what I mean. The level of not care. The Technomage is pissed off that he has to talk to Sheridan. He's like, look, leave us alone. We're doing our own thing. We don't mean nobody any harm. We're not doing anything. And Sheridan's yelling, trying to get with him. He's like, look, y'all still here. I need to make sure that we're good. And I kind of feel Sheridan because they got a ton of Drazi and they basically massacring each other. What could these like super technological people can do? You know what I mean? Which we do find out they have a really fun philosophical question. And this is where, oh man, I really wish I could play some of these quotes because first of all, that actor who does look like the Mummy, he does an amazing job with these lines. And he's basically saying like, he asks Sheridan, like, do you believe in magic? And Sheridan basically is saying like, no. And they're talking about like what Sheridan does. He does a callback to an Arthur C. Clarke quote that a sufficiently advanced technology can look like magic. And he then says, well, if we try to explain to people what this place was 1,000, to people who lived 1,000 years ago, they would think that it's magic. And then the mage is like, yeah, well, our technology kind of lies on the margin. And he's explaining like, yeah, but God was first and we didn't, the God was first and the burning bush was first and they didn't need God didn't need solar panels and, computer programs and stuff like that. And the mage just kind of looks at him and I think kind of like an endearing Like, oh, poor boy. Look. And he's like, look, we exist in the margins of that. You don't know how God did it. You don't know how we do it. Therefore, we are magic.
Mm-hmm.
But and Sheridan walks away, and the mage gives him something, which is an orange bloom, which is part of with their conversation, which I thought that was kind of cool, that he's like, oh, you like oranges? Boom. Here's one. Tell me how I did that, son. That's what I thought.
His explanation of magic sounds like modern witchcraft, or like cultural witchcraft now, even now, because some witches believe that magic is just the understanding of the world that we haven't gotten to yet. So there are some things that work in the world that we don't quite understand, that may be understood someday, maybe not, but we know that it works to a degree. And whether or not it's psychology or something, because some like ancient, what people consider witchcraft, is just psychology. Like,
Yeah.
Or chicken noodle soup. You know that's magic, right? You have a cauldron, boiling liquid. You put a chicken's head in it and some herbs, and then sick people consume it, and wow, they're better. Magic.
yeah, they got some nutrients in their body. Now we understand that your body needs nutrients to feed the system that fights off viruses. But they didn't know that back then. It was just a magic potion to get rid of colds.
What's funny is I was listening to
That part.
a YouTube yesterday where a guy was trying to say that a guy was trying to explain that drugs are witchcraft, like medicine, and any type of remedy was witchcraft. But he was trying to say that, like, he was trying to say it in a negative way, like you should be against healing disease. It was I don't want to explain it all here because I don't need to do all that, but it was a certain type of podcast, and I was just like, this is a little ridiculous.
Kind
But
of like the antivirus thing.
what
do you call them? The people who don't want to get vaccines.
anti-vax people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're like, let your own immune system fix it, even if you have a compromised immune system that would probably shut down by itself.
Yeah. And then when they try to bring like religion into it, it's like, but God gave us these brains to figure this stuff out. That's how He helps. Better.
In that meeting, and I kind of missed it. Londo set up a recording device so he could have a picture of him and the Technomage together. The Technomage immediately calls it out, blows it up, and he's yelling at Londo. When Londo goes back to his quarters, his place is cursed. You hear Narn opera. You see little like you see the lights are flickering on and off. On his computer, his files are being destroyed by demons, and you hear randomly that his account is buying up useless stock. And I was just like, wow, that's like the ultimate revenge on anybody.
The hacker. They're just hackers. Like,
yeah, there's your cyberpunk.
Yeah, that's very cyberpunk.
Even though the Technomages are dressed like druids or something, I don't even know.
And that creature, the hologram creature, kind of looked like something from Dungeons and Dragons or something. Like,
but like, just think about it though. Like with, we talked about medicine and chicken noodle soup, but like, imagine the type of technology that people can come up with to
with your current house.
Yeah. And that will come up with like illusions and stuff like that. Like, I mean, honestly, it does sound like a computer virus is just running rampant in Londo's room. But like, imagine like somebody makes you mad because they won't leave you alone, and you're like, you know what? I'm about to ruin your bank account.
but like, in 2024, like obviously they put a couple of viruses in his system, but back in the 90s, it'd been like, oh, they put a spell on his computer. Like we didn't know about virus. We kind of knew about viruses, but they weren't like we know now, where you can just click on almost on any random thing and just get a virus.
Yeah.
And some viruses back then were like mailed to people in disk, and you had to actually have internet. Not everybody had internet back. Did we have internet then?
We had dial-up.
I didn't.
Stuff in the mail that would hurt you. What was that? Anthrax or whatever?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was like a techno version of it. It's a virus. It's a
Technovirus.
It's a technovirus.
That sounds like X-Men, because they had the legacy virus was a techno organic virus. Anyway, 90s, man. That's all I gotta talk. Well, what are your thoughts about the mages, like not only his technology, but like his overall just disdain for non-technomages?
It makes sense because he clearly is like on a level of advanced knowing, and so talking to the other people is just like rudimentary. It's like, oh my god, you don't understand anything. I don't really enjoy speaking to smart people that are arrogant, but that's what I think.
Yeah. And he was kind of, at least he was kind of patient with Sheridan, because Sheridan was like, I can kind of see what it is. Whereas Londo is just nothing but arrogant. And he did explain to Sheridan why what they were doing eventually.
This
Even
might
though it was
be
none of their business.
This might be another difference between Sinclair and Sheridan. I think Sinclair was very much skeptical of anything spiritual or magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Sheridan looked very kind of childlike in wonder.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh wow!" He didn't question like, how did he do that? He was just kind of like, "Wow," you know.
I kind of feel like since he was, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
He had that. He just spent 2 years on the rim. So was that what it was? Like on the outskirts. So he is used to looking for things that haven't been seen before. And all of thank you. All of the a lot of Babylon 5 to him was like, ooh, this is wondrous. So the Technomages coming was just more wondrous things. Like not just him getting orange juice and taking showers, but all the species and stuff. Like the conversation he had with his sister, where he just couldn't stop talking about all the wonders of this space station, where he can pretty much explore the galaxy in this 5-mile station.
So you're saying he's showing the wonder because it's new to him, while Sinclair was probably over it after a while because he had been there for 2 years, you know. So he's like, aliens, yeah, they're there.
And he still got that.
Guys.
He still had that PTSD that he was fighting that had to do with the aliens, whereas New Guy's issue was his wife leaving, dying without him saying goodbye.
Yeah.
So he can be open to all the alien stuff because that's not where his trauma cuts him off at. It literally his trauma cut him off to a point where he went the other direction into all the alien cool stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff, alien stuff, and it's not as cool. So Ivanova is trying to stop. She demands that the Drazi stop the violence. So she goes down below in Brown Sector to the alien sector to like get them and talk to them. And they're like, you know what? We got a solution. We know how to fix this. Look, you get all of the purple Drazi into this sector. Nobody's going to be around. Nobody else will get hurt. And the minute that you find out that all of them are there, we lock it and we space all of them. They just wanted to ambush these guys and space them, which is that is wild. But first off, and Ivanova's like, the fuck, no. And they're like, well, okay, well, we're gonna hold you hostage. We already told them that you said it. We're just waiting for him now. We're just gonna kill him the old-fashioned way. This is when, once again, Garibaldi is in the hallway, and Lou runs by, and Garibaldi's like, hey, what's going on? And Lou is like, oh, hey, Ivanova called us on the link and told us to meet and clear out this sector or whatever. And then this is where Garibaldi's detective brain turns on. He's all like, wait a minute, she didn't tell you directly? They were like, no. You didn't see you didn't see her? They were like, no. Where's her link? Well, look. And Lou was like, look, we got all the information. This is what she said. This is what we're going to do. Side note, this bothers me because this is Lou being I got orders, I'm just following orders thing.
Yes, this is where I was waiting to jump in on the Anita's always on me about need to know basis and all of that. And I'm always challenging, like, I need to know why you want me to do this thing. Turn left, why? And yeah, it was really nice that paid off. Like, needing to know, no matter how low ranking you are, is important, because I'm not just like a carrier bee, or what are the little ants
a drone.
that just do whatever.
A
There we
drone.
go. I'm not a drone. I need to know why, so that I can agree with what it is you're asking me to do. Because I'm pretty sure the people who are, bombing insurgents, women and children, but we're doing it anyway, and that's not cool.
But so Garibaldi, he's showing his suspicions, and then and Lou is like, look, we got a job to do. Get out the way. Because remember, Garibaldi is not, he's not working, but he can't turn his brain off. So what you see is Garibaldi's down in Brown sector, pretending to be a door-to-door salesman.
You got to show us that capitalism is alive and well here,
right? And he has this impersonation working pretty well, which I think door-to-door salesmen was a thing in the 1920s.
I think they still did it then. Well, it changed in the 90s. It turned into like MLMs.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, people selling knives or vitamins.
It's like, I'm not going to you. You come to me.
Yeah.
Unless it's social media, then they show up in your DMs.
But this is where this is also pretty interesting. This is where he found out Ivanova is being held hostage. He goes in, a fight ensues, and this is where they have that talk about the Drazi. Garibaldi is like, look, we got the purples in the other side. They're locked up. And I think we're going to keep them there. And we're going to hold them there for a couple days until this whole thing blows over. And the leader of the Green is like laughing. He's like, no, this doesn't last for a Drazi week. This lasts for a Drazi year. And that's a year and 2 months of human years.
We might as well be.
I know, right?
We totally might.
And before we started recording, one of y'all said it, and I'm trying to remember, like, was there a solution to the Drazi problem?
I don't know.
Oh, yes, there most certainly was. 1 second. The meeting in the corridor where Ivanova is still trying to, like, really understand, like, why are you guys arguing over just, like, sticking your hand in a bag? And it's just like, now you're against your mom and your brother. You're on that side, no matter who you was born to, where you grew up. The culture don't matter, none of that. And she's like, is it really just this stupid scarf on your neck? And she snatches the scarf off of the leader of the Green Drazi.
Yeah.
And they all look at her like, we're listening. And she's like, the fuck is wrong with y'all? And they're like, you're the Drazi leader now of Green Camp.
Awaiting
So we're
commands.
following you. Right. And she's like, "Oh, we're gonna go have craft time. Follow me to the kitchen. We're dipping everybody's scarf in the purple sauce, and now we're all friends." The end.
So
Oh,
she
that's what she said.
okay.
Okay.
So she kind of used a cheat / workaround to make them, because her job was to stop the violence, really.
Yeah.
And so she found a way. She kind of used the Sinclair method. She heard the rules. She used the loophole to circumvent the rules, and she got her outcome. And so
you mentioned.
Go ahead.
You mentioned how they're like the UN before, and how she's supposed to bring diplomacy, but it's like she comes in not understanding and trying to. Her job basically is to make them stop doing whatever their culture is. That was the first thing that I noticed. It's like their custom is to fight. Your job is to tell them to stop fighting.
Yeah.
So on top of everything else, it's like, you're just wrong because this is not what we want. It is interrupting what we do. I mean, yeah, there is a danger. There is a empathy that we get to have as an audience. But to tell, just straight up be like, yeah, our government doesn't like what you're doing. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to get you to stop doing it.
Well, also think about it too, because like the Drazi, they represent a very simplistic version of it. But behind the scenes, that exact same thing is going on in Earth Force between the Free Mars movement, the Earth Force moving far right wing these days, along with the machinations of the Psychor. So they're trying to figure out, and y'all see later, they're trying to figure out how to give humans their own flags to identify who's the good guys and who's the bad guys. So yeah.
I was predicting a potential problem, but before I explain that, I'm thinking about what you're saying, Damian, that there was no seeking of understanding, even though it didn't really make sense what they were doing.
They were seeking reasons, but the reasons were beyond the humans' understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. I must have missed that part, but that's okay, because I am thinking that even with the solution that was given, I can't imagine that changing the color is going to stop them from being like, we were the original purples, you the new purples, and that could still be a problem. And I was thinking, like, would it not have been better to have snatched the leadership bandana off the purple Drazi one and then dye them a color that everybody becomes one new color?
Yeah.
It makes me think of, y'all ever see those social media posts where people always respond like, this is keeping us divided. You shouldn't say that because you're keeping us divided. And the thing that a person is saying is either like an observation of like, hey, yeah, this is something that really happened, or they're sharing an opposing view to that person, right?
Right.
If the solution of taking one rag and coloring it, making it another color, is basically like, we should unify and we should all be the same. We should be the same color and we won't have any problems. And what I see online and I hear in person is everybody's like, oh, everybody should be a Democrat, and then the world's problems will be fixed, or everybody should be a Republican, and our world's problems will be fixed. And it's like literally not that simple at all, because what ends up happening in these conflicts or in these situations is people are like, okay, we're all purple now, but if we look at these type of people that are purple and those type of people that are purple, these type of purples can't be trusted with those type of purples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wasn't there even an experiment done, the blue eye experiment, where it took a classroom and they created classes based on eye color, and then people legit were treating each other bad because of their eye colors. You know, and that's what it kind of reminds me of, and it also reminds me of like the problem of centrism. Is like, why don't we take your colors and make them all the same color? And it's like, yeah, let's all be equally as bad so we can treat each other equally as bad.
Right.
And which, of course, this is more of a criticism of partisan politics. And that's just kind of what people end up doing. It's always weird when I hear people like, I like to listen to both sides. It's like, you like to listen to two people that are wrong? Great.
Yo, that part.
Like whenever I got around people who wanted to talk about politics or what side you're on and stuff, I'm like, they're all liars. So what? But I was thinking of it that you're right about what you said about the fabric.
Yeah.
I was thinking of it in also a very contrasting and a very simplistic way. It's like if they go and dye all the fabric, all the cloth, like they can't. They had this fabric since before they met humans. They had this system. That fabric was not 1,000 years old. They just gonna make new cloth next year.
Yeah.
Like the next cycle, they'll just make more and fight again. They ain't the same.
That's a good point. And I'm not sure if this was said before or after the recording or not. So forgive me if I'm repeating somebody. What if the fighting was necessary due to what is it called? Like
I was saying population. Yeah. That was my question too. Yeah.
But like they weren't killing each other at first.
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for probably 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So it may have started that way, kind of like a lot of systems that we have, especially when it comes to superiority on Earth, not just in America, but
yeah.
we got those systems that were started a long time ago, kind of like gender roles.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe that was necessary for population to grow and for people to humans to survive. Maybe we needed the biggest, strongest people to be available for war and stuff. But now we've taken it so far that to a place that we don't need it no more. It's irrelevant, but they still hold on to it because that's all they know.
Yeah.
Or they think it's still relevant because they find new little explanations for things because they need to hold on to it. I feel like this is trauma responses that's just been passed down. I'm scared, or like for instance, women. I need to have a man. Why do you need to have a man? That's not relevant anymore because you can go get education and a job and take care of yourself. Well, right now nobody can take care of themselves, but equally we can't take care of ourselves because we ain't get paid enough to get food. But like when the rules were that women couldn't have money on their own, they couldn't own a credit card, they couldn't own property, you had to have a man take care of you because of the rules. And when that's your life, and then you teach your daughters that, and you teach your daughters that, and you teach your daughters that, and now even though it's not relevant anymore, we've still grew up being told these things, hearing these things, and because it comes from the people who nurtured us, some of us feel like, oh, like there's a trauma response of I have to listen to what my mom said or what my grandma said because that's the and so many people say, well, that's the way we've been doing it, that's the way it's supposed to be, that's how it was set up, and like, but we never look past the fact that things have changed and that we need a new setup.
Yeah.
And they haven't looked past the things that created this setup, and they're still using the setup that's irrelevant.
Yeah, and like I said, that sounds like an indictment. Like you're pointing more towards like extra political. Well, I would say extra political systems, but they all relate to power and hierarchical power. because it is basically we have this system in place to tell us who is in charge and who are oppressed. And we just got to do it that way because we don't have anything better. Yeah, we tried other things. It didn't work. So we're just going to do this very brutal, horrible system that murders people. So, yeah. So going back to Londo, when he gets back to his quarters, his place is cursed. And Veer basically says, well, have you tried apologizing? And Londo is like, apologize? Why?
That doesn't feed my ego. He's such a baby.
He's like outraged with the even the idea. Which, okay, that makes me think of power in a different way because granted, like he's an ambassador, he doesn't really have all that much power, but he's trying to like hold up his own personal dignity and personal power in the face of a much more overwhelmingly strong and fierce power. Mm-hmm. And he finally relents.
That sounds like parents.
It sounds like parents. It sounds like quote unquote traditional men, politicians. It's like when a person, like when these people find themselves in a situation where they really don't have any power, they get like indignant. Like why should I apologize to you? It's like, because you caused us trauma. Like you were wrong. Like something's wrong with you, not me. Like you harmed me. So yes, you should apologize. If you want to be in a relationship with me, apologize. And that's kind of
absolutely right. And that's where Darvo comes in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And some teachers, they'll do that too. It's like, I'm supposed to be right simply because I am superior to you. It's like the school system is set up to train you to work in a hierarchy.
Kind of go back to Sunday's comment. Parents try to do that to teachers.
Oh my God.
Yikes.
Like, instead of working as a community to help each other work as a community, a team, to work at the same goal together, they're fighting each other. And I don't understand it. I lived it from both angles. And
oh man. Yeah.
It's like, I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm trying to be on your team. Like, do you want to help or not? And they want to like try to set up dominance when there's no real reason for that. Like, it defeats the purpose. We ain't getting what we need to do done if you're trying to set up dominance. But it's just ingrained in people that I need to intimidate them if I'm going to have anything I need done, instead of just working with people to get the job done.
Yeah. And so Londo, he's humbled because like that Narn opera is so much louder. This stuff is just, it's those demons are running amok. And so he ends up going back down below. And he is being so flowery. He's trying to talk around the apology to the Technomages, but all you hear is the sounds just growling, until eventually Londo says, I apologize. He finally says the words, which is like, think about it. Like, for the audience, that can be cathartic, right? We want to hear this horrible person be humbled and say, like, honestly, the smallest thing is for him to do is apologize, but we want to hear it because it harms him so much.
I like the response though.
Yeah.
Like, there's still a dark force on you, my boy. And he's like,
yeah.
Huh? What? Yeah, I should kill you, but somebody else will just take your place. So we'll just let you live and deal with your he kind of set it up to where there's going to be crowds of people calling your name. And he's like, what? My followers? No, you're victims, fool.
Right. Yeah, because the techno mage did a he made a prophecy to him, and he was just, but he's explaining how just loathsome that Londo is. He's like, yeah, I can kill you. Somebody take your place. So I'm gonna only do the only thing that I can do, which is leave. And I was like, that's real power right there.
Right.
That's real power, to remove yourself from a situation that is not serving you, that's not benefiting you, that doesn't bring you joy or anything. It's just like, well, but yeah, I'm gonna just leave.
Right.
You cannot influence me anymore.
And it sounds exactly like what you do with a person like that. Like, oh, if you're with a narcissistic relationship, the best thing you can do is to gray rock them or just cut them off altogether. You may want to save them from the next person because you know they're just going to keep doing this from other people, but that's not going to help anything. It's not going to change anything. The only thing you could do is keep your peace.
Yeah. And I did like the Technomages words to Londo, because Londo asks, am I going to continue to suffer from my whole life from one little mistake? And the Technomage is like, look, you're going to be paying for the rest of your life for all of your mistakes. And he wasn't talking about his curses. He's talking about Londo's own actions.
Londo being Londo.
Yeah.
Like, all those things just keep piling up his karma.
Yep.
He does nothing but shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah. He's the one kicking over the hornet's nest and wondering why they keep stinging me.
And the ironic thing is, he was kind of saying that to the other guy in the beginning. It's like,
oh yeah,
him going for power that in a way that might hinder him because you're going for a power that's stronger than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what he tried to tell his friend not to do, but it's not like he didn't say, "Oh, okay, I'm on board."
Yeah,
he recognized it and still did it.
He's the ultimate opportunist.
There you go. Yeah, word.
And he's like, you know what? If this is kind of where we're gonna go, yeah, I'm gonna be on that train. But it's also because Londo is at the center of it with his buddies, with Morden and those ships, the species, which we will be seeing more of in the next episode. In this episode, the Technomages are about to leave the station. Sheridan speaks to him, and he's there to see him off. And the Technomage again does a really cool monologue, or really cool dialogue about how what the mages are going to do is leave because of what's going to happen in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, look, we're leaving here, and if you're fortunate, you won't see us ever again. And man, there's a question I want to ask, but I can't ask it now. It has to come at the end of this story arc, which is a whole other season.
Oh wow.
So I won't ask it. But how about this? Mel, considering what we know, and this Technomage is only, he's one of hundreds, but he's one that looks like a human. So maybe Technomages are cross species as well.
Mm-hmm.
But considering what we see happen, does the Technomages leaving make sense in light of the thing that happens next?
I guess so. I don't remember exactly what happens next. Well, considering everyone's fighting for power, and that type of power is not something that they find relevant to life,
mm-hmm.
It would make sense for them to leave them be. And their little pettiness.
I did have a thought while you were saying that. I remembered something, and I'm like, it makes really good sense, actually, because of what one species can possibly do to them. And we can talk about it offline. But for those who haven't caught up, we'll just let y'all marinate on that.
Well, you know what? Let me put it this way: if Londo is an example of what the diplomatic struggle is, then and that's not what their purpose is. Their purpose is enlightenment and knowledge and understanding of the world. Basically, understanding of the world, which lightens your way to seeing things. And that's not what they're about. They're all stagnant in their idea of I need to be on top, and it's not the place for them.
Yeah,
that's not where they belong. It's not their place.
Yeah, and so the mages leave, and the episode ends. But it makes me think about some of these themes. I know we're running a little long. I wanted to get to this. So again, I wanted to revisit the concept of destiny and fate, because we see, like, we have the kind of written destiny of the Drazi and their conflict, and this is something that looks like it's going to repeat in politics in general. In fact, that's what the whole show is about. But what do y'all think about the prophecy and the fate that was told to Londo? That darkness is covering him, that basically,
so that's the shadow dude. So what's with the Loki dude?
Mm-hmm.
What is his name?
Morden, Mr. Morden.
I mean, they're literal darkness, and that was what the ships that what's his name saw.
Yeah,
they were kind of like the shields were around a dark ship. You didn't actually see the ship. It was like black inside of the lights running around it. That's like how you saw them.
How do you think Garibaldi? Well, oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. Garibaldi did go back to work, and I liked his explanation that he is actually paying attention to everyone. Mm-hmm. And he said, like, I have an intimate relationship with everyone. And Ivanov was like, hey, he goes, no, seriously, look, for the 2 years you've been on this station, you haven't been 2 meters away from your link. And it's like little details like that occur to Garibaldi, and why he was able to quickly realize, like, there was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this, they're trying to explain, like, okay, these characters do know and care about each other. Mm-hmm. And we may see more development of their relationships, especially since Sinclair is gone. Like you said, Garibaldi and Sinclair had a relationship, and that was kind of it. Now that Sinclair is gone, there's like, you have to expand.
Yeah, they're all war buddies. Now you have to go out and meet new people.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go anywhere. A new person came to you. I kind of saw it as like if his ego was showing him that he made that mistake and it almost cost him his life. And he's about to give up on the job because of that, instead of actually seeing what gifts he did have in that job. Yeah. And then when he realized what facts he could put together, that's when he realized, oh, this is why I should stay. I have this gift that I was ignoring over the trauma of being shot in the back.
Yeah.
Which is traumatic. I mean,
yeah. Like, who would blame him for not going back, right?
He was military and then a cop, and then like slipped up and didn't watch his back. But then he also slipped up by not knowing that his number one guy was a terrorist, basically.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's like, how did I miss? And then also he prides himself on knowing everything about everyone. So how did he work with this guy and not figure out that he was going to that he was on the other side? Like, he should have picked up on some clues, and he didn't. But then he's also biased towards, I'm friends with you.
Yep. Maybe this kind of opens his eyes to his friends, because they joked about him being paranoid, but like he turned his back on his number one that shot him, and he did not know, he didn't have a feeling like there's something deeper going on. Now he's in a place where he's like, okay, there is something deeper going on. I need to really know these people. And he is in a place where first he was like, I don't want to get to know Sheridan. And now he's like, you know what? I think it's a good idea. And I think that's going to boil over to other characters. He explained Ivanova. We got to see a little bit more of Lou, which I will say, like, in general, this episode is great. Those characters are great. But I also think, like, we're going to see some development of Garibaldi that is going to be more than just, like, all business Garibaldi, you know? Yeah. All right. And that's our episode. Of course, that meeting took place over dinner. You know, so and that
fancy restaurant.
Yeah. And that, you know, that makes sense because they're trying to humanize these characters. So they end the episode out of uniform for most of them anyway. So I thought that was pretty interesting too. Yep. All right. So that is episode 2 of season 2, Revelations. I just got to say I enjoyed this episode because we got to see some more really good writing and storytelling. And I think it only gets better. I know episode 3 gets better. So I think it only gets better from here. And I'm very excited to share this with y'all. So yeah, y'all keep hanging out with us as we go through this series on Voices in Hyperspace. You know what you should do? You should check us out. We got Voices in Hyperspace on our Facebook. There's a Facebook group. We also have our YouTube at Voices in Hyperspace. And you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Index, Amazon Music, and a variety of other of your favorite podcast places that can stream. Also, check us out.
You can share it.
Yeah, you can share it with your friends. Listen to it while you're at work, while you're on a drive, and like, subscribe, share. And how should people find you?
You can find me at melsrebellion.com, and there's links to my books and my social media. It's also a link to Voices in Hyperspace, the YouTube, so you can go subscribe to us.
Excellent. So we gave y'all a lot of different ways to keep up with us. So we're going to get out of here, and we'll catch up with y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you out there.
Uh-oh.